Hello and welcome to episode 169 of Controller Club, the friendly face gaming space, a podcast where three friends from three continents share in one love, and that is video games. On today's show, we are back from our very first PAX experience, and we've got plenty to talk about, so we'll get into it in a second. But first, my name is Klein Felt, and alongside me today are two of my best friends in the whole wide gaming world. First, coming up to us, I guess not exactly from across the pond. It's the different side of the pond. The digital art daredevil himself, sitting right next to me. YouTube audiences, look at his face. Tom Drew in my living room. Tom, how you doing? What's going on?
I'm doing good. Yeah. For the YouTube audience, I'm on a different screen this week. For the non-YouTube audience, this won't probably make a difference, I don't think. But no, I'm in Canada at the moment with Klein. Obviously, we're talking about PAX this week, but and I had to make a bit of a trek for that. So part of that journey was getting to Canada initially, of course, and now we're back in Canada for a little bit. So full of poutine, full of I haven't had any maple syrup since I've been here. So but maybe that's to come. But yeah, feeling very Canadian today, which is good, I guess. Yeah.
Good. It's that A&W root beer flowing through your veins from yesterday. Notorious A&W hater Lauren Rouse. We're about to get to you. But Tom Drew had his first A&W experience yesterday. He is a certified Canadian. He absolutely adored it. Next up, journalist extraordinaire, the Australian abroad / the Canadian in training, although someone else on the podcast might be almost a little more Canadian already. He's sitting right next to me. It is Lauren Rouse. Lauren, what's going on? How are you? She's shaking her head. I think it's over. I think the podcast is done.
Yeah, we've survived a whole week together, but this is the nail in the coffin. I'm telling you now. I've been in training for a whole year now, and he gets to have like 1 week.
Yeah, he had
root
one
beer
teen
sucks.
burger.
I don't know how to hide it from you. I never said the burger sucks. I said root beer sucks.
Yeah. Oh, he didn't like the root beer either. Yeah. I don't even like root beer, but it is what it is. That's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about the journey that we have been on. Controller Club has gone to our first convention, our very first PAX. We were down in Seattle for PAX West 2025. We're going to do a bit of story time. We're going to talk all about the games we played, the people we met, the panels we sat in on. But before we get to all that, I'm going to throw it to you, Tom. I'm going to throw it to you, Lauren. I want to ask you, how are we feeling? How are we doing? We just spent, as you said, Lauren, a week together, ending in about 5 days in Seattle. A whole lot of fun, a whole lot of food, a whole lot of people, and not a lot of sleep. So I am still recovering from that, but I don't know about you or Tom. Lauren, how are you feeling now that we are back at home and PAX is in the rear view?
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what to expect from PAX because, as everybody knows, I've been to like much larger conventions. Like I've been to San Diego Comic-Con. It doesn't get much bigger than that. And so I was kind of wondering what to expect from PAX or PAX West, particularly knowing that it has kind of scaled down a little bit since COVID, and that we knew the exhibitors were going, but the big ones were maybe missing from the slate. There was definitely there was Nintendo, and we'll be talking about that, but there was quite a few like big names struck from the list. So I didn't really have many expectations for it, but I honestly walked away really surprised. I had such a nice time. I'm already in like the post-convention depression, which usually only happens after something like Comic-Con. So there you go. It's past that threshold in my mind. Yeah, I just came away really fulfilled and kind of warm towards the whole gaming industry, which is something that I didn't realize I had lost until I was there. And I think it's because, video games in the recent years have really kind of become work for me. I'm either writing about them or I'm researching them or I'm doing something for the website or one of the sites I'm writing for or this podcast. And it kind of felt like work. And going to PAX kind of reminded me that there's all these people with this passion for games and big and small and being around all these other people who just shared in this love of games really like revitalized that for me. And I think that was kind of something that I was missing. And so I'm going forward now feeling like this love for not just the big AAA games that are coming up, but all the small things. And I think it's really, I guess, like opened my mind to more types of games, whether they're big and small. So I really appreciated PAX for that.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you there. It was so cool to be in a place where everyone is there for the same reason. I think that you go to other conventions. Lauren, you and I went to Fan Expo earlier this year. Tom's been like Star Wars Celebration, and I guess Star Wars Celebration is probably a little more focused like this. But at Fan Expo, it is, you're there to see celebrities, and you're there to get the latest on your favorite, whether it is a game, TV show, movie. Whereas this is so focused, and it is very just like video games, tabletop games, gaming in general, and everyone just kind of celebrating this medium that we here on the podcast have been celebrating for now almost 170 episodes, a little over 3 years. And so to get there and see it had always been a dream of mine, and to do it with you guys was just an absolute blast. Had a whole lot of fun. Tom, are you as positive on the experience, or are you you're kind of itching to get back overseas?
No, I definitely relate when Laura mentioned like post-con depression. Like I don't think I've ever really had it, because the biggest convention I think I've been to is Star Wars Celebration, and that was like a full 4-day thing. But every other convention I've been to is like I've gone for maybe a day or like 2 days at the most. So I kind of sample what I want to see, and then I go on my merry way, and then it's back to real life. But this felt like, it really felt like this whole kind of different world where you're just like going through and you're seeing panels, you're playing games, you're talking to people, and I just had like the best time. I think we did a really good job of like sampling a little bit of everything. Like I said, we did a bit of the panels, a bit of the games, a bit of like the free stuff, and the pop-ups and that sort of stuff. So
A lot of the lining up.
yeah, a lot of lining up, especially for you, Lauren, which we'll get to. But I think it's definitely nice, because I've not been to a full-on gaming convention. They've normally all been kind of more pop culture focused in general, and this one was the first time where I felt like it really didn't matter if I just like turned to someone and in line or something like that and talk to them about something, because you can just ask them like, oh, what's the best thing you've played? And then you'll just hear about this new gaming recommendation, and then you'll go and play that game and be like, oh yeah, this game was amazing. They were right. So I think just the biggest takeaway for me is like the people that we met were all just like really, really nice. Like I don't think I had a single negative experience with anyone. It's just all very lovely, and it's nice to know it's nice to be around gamers, like I don't really have that a lot in my regular life, so it's nice to have that kind of bonding thing with you guys, obviously, but also the other attendees, the devs, and everyone there at the convention.
Yeah, shout out Oscar.
Yeah.
Shout out all of the people that we interviewed for social content. Shout out to all the amazing PR people we finally like put a name to a face to and shook hands with. All the incredible devs that we met. There's so many, whether it is like we met people who are working on things as big as Borderlands 4 and like big AAA stuff. And then we also met these amazing like 3-person, 2-person teams that are just like trying to make a wonderful thing happen. And I think that was just, you're all there for this common love of games, and it's an even playing field, as you said, Tom. Like whether it is whoever at the top of the food chain working on Borderlands, or the 1-person dev, or the person standing behind you, or the cosplayer out on the street, you can always turn to somebody and be like, hey, what's the best thing that you've played here at the show? What are you playing right now? What's your favorite game of the year? And they're going to have something to say, which I think is like so cool. And it really does feel like the PAX family. Like we are now part of the PAX family.
It just felt super welcoming. Like I'm a very nervous person, so I'm very intimidated by these sorts of things, whereas like going and like trying to put yourself out there and that sort of thing. But like I said, everyone's just really nice. Like it was, even though it was like, okay, maybe a little bit awkward here and there, a little bit scared in some games maybe, but like the fact that people were like so accepting just like made the whole experience so worth it.
I think also I was surprised by just how much there was to do, how much we got done, and how quickly the time went. Like going into it, I was like, 4 days, we're not going to need that much. Like I was looking at the programming, I was like, there's not a huge amount of panels, and looking at the list of games, apart from the big ones that we knew were gaming, they're like, we're going to be fine. We'll probably be like done in 2 days and have some time to relax. And that was not the case. We were like jam-packed all day, every day. And even by the end of the 4 days, I was like, there was still more we probably could have done. So yeah, when I look back and I look at something like San Diego, I'm like, I think I got through. I mean, it's just kind of different priorities. It really depends what you prioritize. But I look back at that and I was like, there's never enough time to get through everything at San Diego Comic-Con. But it was kind of similar with this, and just that the time disappeared, and And yeah, I don't know what more we could have done with it, but that was a nice surprise that there was definitely enough to do over 4 days.
It melted away. Monday at 6 p.m. came so fast. I think Monday specifically for me was the shortest day. Everything else we had stuff kind of scheduled out, whether it was doing interviews, getting to a panel. Monday was a little more free form. We went and we saw some Nintendo games that we'd had booked. Other than that, it was kind of like, let's play around. We went to this nice fun Jackbox panel, which was one of the highlights of the weekend. But that was like, whoa, I looked down at my watch. It was 11:30 and the doors had been open for a little bit. And then all of a sudden I looked down again and it's 6 p.m. and they're telling us to get out of there. And it's just, the weekend went by so fast. They were late nights. We put in a lot of work, but I think was very much worth it. And we all had a lot of fun and we met a lot of cool people and we played a lot of cool games. So I think we should start talking maybe about what we did, what we saw, what was going on at PAX in general. I want to talk to you quickly, Lauren, because you were in charge. You kind of took charge, I guess, of the panel scheduling, what we were hitting, what we were actually going to go and sit and watch when it came to like the presentation side of things. So what did we see, I guess, when it came to the panels? Were there any highlights from the panels from either of you guys? And how was your kind of PAX panel experience overall?
Well, I think to start with the overall, I was surprised at how, like, I guess thin the programming on the panels was, at least for me. I'm used to sort of, I guess, like I said, San Diego, where like the big publishers all come and do their big movies or their big presentations, and that's kind of like you schedule those out on each of your days, and you kind of just have to like sit through the entire day to wait for those things and stuff like that. This was not really the case. There was never really anything that we couldn't get into or that we had to line up excessively for, except perhaps the Helldivers 2 music panel, which surprised me with how busy it was. But I guess they just probably should have put it in a bigger room in hindsight. But yeah, that was one of the cool things we got to see, was a chat with the composer behind Helldivers 2, because obviously we love that game and we particularly love the music in that game. So that was a really nice kind of fireside chat kind of thing. And they did have to cap the room. So luckily we got there a little bit earlier for that. Apart from that, the two main like headlining panels were from Gearbox, which is the company behind Borderlands 4. And they also talked about another game, didn't they?
Risk of Rain 2.
There we go. That was probably like the most comparable thing to a Hall H panel I could find, because they gave away masks. Like they did a big magic trick that involved the crowd. They had cosplayers on stage. They had trailers and this and that. So that felt like it was like highly produced. And then similarly, the Capcom panel, that was probably the other big thing on the weekend, where they talked about Resident Evil 9, Pragmata, and Onimusha, and another thing, Monster Hunter?
Yeah, briefly. Yeah, very briefly.
Yeah. So that was cool. That felt like we were getting a bit of a like one of those like E3 style showcases, and it was streamed live, I believe, on PAX's Twitch channel and YouTube and things like that. But apart from that, we kept it pretty light. I had one panel I wanted to go to, which was Life is Strange, which I did not make it to. We'll explain later. And like you mentioned, Klein, we did go to a fun little Jackbox panel on Monday, which was basically the devs bringing up a group of panelists and / friends to play some of their new games, and we all got to watch and tune in as part of the audience, and that was very, very fun. So that was about the extent of the panels that we went to, and I would say we hit probably the major ones. I think the rest of the program they have is either for like niche audiences or like more sort of chats on like how to get into games, like game dev kind of not tutorials, like info sessions and Q&As and things like that. But did you guys have any highlights out of the things we saw?
I think mine was probably the Jackbox one, to be honest. Like, to be honest, when we were walking up to, I was like, is this going to be anything? Like, the panels up to that point, I liked, but wasn't like blown away by. And the Jackbox one, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but it was honestly so much fun. It was basically, yeah, like you mentioned, just a panel of just funny people, I guess is the best description I can give. And they were just demoing some upcoming games from the Party Pack 11. So they played like this one where you have to make sounds and like to different prompts. There's another one where you had to like basically it was almost like a werewolf-esque kind of game where you had to deduce who out of your friends was like a criminal based on different like answers you gave to different questions. And the last one, which I think was my favorite, was called Dominate, which is basically they give you prompts for like really nice things and really happy stuff. But then your job is to like ruin those things with your own prompts. So they had like the funniest one for me, I think, and I think for all of us potentially, Sam Winkler was there, who was I think he's a narrative. He's part of the narrative team at Gearbox, and the prompt was something like, you got invited to like a like your own red carpet screening of your own film, and then they ruined it by saying Borderlands 2024. So that got a lot of laughs from people, and like the audience really was able to join in as well, because you had the audience kind of features and that sort of thing. And it was just hilarious. Like, it was just a lot of fun. And I think I wish more of the panels were like that, basically.
Yeah, Jackbox was my panel highlight of the weekend. It was very cool to see the Gearbox and the Capcom panels, and the Helldivers panel was very interesting. That composer was amazing. But seeing Capcom, seeing Gearbox, I've seen so many of those presentations before from behind, like from the other side of the computer screen, and so to be in the room was like very, very, very cool. But Jackbox, as you said, Tom, wasn't expecting much, and then we kind of knew they're going to show off a couple of new games. I'm thinking, is this going to be another PowerPoint presentation where we're going to look at some trailers and discuss what the future of Jackbox is? It's like, no, what better way to show off these games than actually playing them with the audience? And
Totally.
I think they made customers of about 75% of that room, because I love the Jackbox games. I'm rarely looking for new ones, but seeing them in action and the goofiness and the fun that we can get from those was just, it was an absolute blast. I was genuinely impressed with, like, I guess what I would call extracurricular programming of PAX when it comes to the panels and that whole separate building. If you don't know PAX West, it's two kind of convention centers, with one being the main show floor with all of the indie devs and Nintendo's booth, and where you can go and you can get your hands on things. And then the other building is panels and this massive tabletop area where it's just tables as far as the eye can see, and you can rent out games, or you can sit and play Magic with friends, or there was like various tournaments going on. And then there was a whole other area that had free play arcade machines, and a whole other area where you could go and rent controllers and consoles and sit at a TV and just play. I think it was until midnight every night in this whole other building. And that's a part of PAX that I have always heard about and didn't really get to explore even when we were there. Tom and I did a brief kind of look around when Lauren was waiting in that incredibly long line we'll talk about in a little bit. But seeing that, the many sides of PAX, I think was very cool, and getting to see that experience, even though we didn't really indulge in that experience at all, was pretty cool, because it really showed me what PAX has always been in my mind. It's just, it is something for so many different people. It can mean so many different things. There are people there who probably didn't even touch the show floor where we spent all of our time. They were just there to play games with their friends, whether it be tabletop or consoles, or sit in the arcade, or go to panels, or go to signings. And I think that that's really cool, that it is this kind of thing that is one thing. It is PAX, but that can mean a million different things to a million different people. And I think the panels and that kind of side of programming was a good example of that.
Yeah, I think if there was one downside, it is the layout of PAX. I really didn't enjoy that. If I wanted to get from playing a demo to a panel in a short time frame, you basically had to block out half an hour to get from out of the main PAX show floor building, down all the escalators, cross like 2 streets, then go up another 5 escalators to get to the panel rooms. That's poor design, in my opinion. And I wish it wasn't that way. I wish they confined it to one building and just had all the levels. But I believe that that's kind of how it has always been, or at least since it's gotten to this stage. And some people like that, because it means that, I know that a lot of times at San Diego, like, you're doing autograph signings on the show floor, and that causes huge congestion issues, and that makes it basically a nightmare to walk the floor. And so it wasn't too much like that here. I never felt like super claustrophobic on the show floor, which was really nice. It was just like a pain if you were trying to like schedule things back to back.
Yeah, it's having those two separate things. I mean, I think PAX East in Boston, it is all one building, and it takes up the entire building, and it is absolutely just as big and just as massive. So we'll have to give it a try. We'll maybe have to go over there, or PAX Australia. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe go down to Melbourne. But I think that this would be a good time to talk a bit about the weekend itself. Fun stories we have. I want to know from each of us a pack story, a highlight, something not particularly, whether it is something you saw on the show floor, some crazy thing that happened. Lauren, if you have another story, you can talk about it, but you've been teasing the 4-hour line wait, and I would like to know more about the 4-hour line wait.
Okay, well, this will lead into my other story that I wanted to talk about, so I may as well get to it now. But as with any convention, there is a busy day, and that busy day was Saturday. And that was the day that we decided we've been getting to the show floor quite early most days, but particularly on Saturday, we got there at like 8 a.m., which was about 2 hours before the show floor opens, because there are a limited number of spots that people can take for these demos, and sometimes the lines get capped pretty quickly. And we'd seen some of that on the Friday. So we decided we were going to hit Capcom that day because there was 3 games and we're all going to try one. So Tom was going for Resident Evil, Klein was going for Onimusha, and I was going to go for Pragmata. And I think you guys, we got let in at 10 and we were pretty close to the front. I think you guys segued and went to Magic or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
stop by.
To
There
get
might have
Magic
been
cards.
free Magic cards acquired, but you know what?
Yeah.
You live.
There were other priorities. My one priority was to hit that line, which I did. And I got in the line for Pragmata before it closed, or was capped for that time. And I wasn't too bad. I was on the carpet. I thought I only had 1 loop to go. And I was like, this is fine. This is easy. You guys did not get into your lines. They were capped pretty much instantly. So you went off to do other things. And I'm like, well, I'm here. Pretty soon into the line, someone's like, oh, yeah, there's like 7 stations available. And the demo's half an hour. I'm like, that's a really long demo and that's not many stations. Looking at myself in line, I'm like, okay, it's probably like a 2-hour wait from here. No. I waited in line. By the time everything was said and done, 4 hours. I was there until I got out at about 2 p.m. after getting in line at 10. Which is an insane amount of time to wait for anything, let alone a game I did know nothing about. And it came to a point where I was like, I've just been in the line long enough that I need to see this through. Otherwise, it's time wasted. And at a convention, time is your most valuable currency. So I saw out my time and was one of the very, I guess, few people that weekend to play the demo, given how long it took to sit in the line. So yeah, that was disappointing because that was the only day I had a panel that I wanted to go to, which was the Life is Strange 10th anniversary panel. And I had to miss it because I was playing the game. But thankfully, I liked the game. Is this the time where I talk about the game, or we're going to talk about the games later?
Let's talk about that. If we want to talk about a game here, we can talk about a game. This conversation will be free flowing. At the end, we will talk about the 3 favorite games we played. If we get there and one of them is Pragmata, just say it's Pragmata. But talk about Pragmata, because when you were in this line, Tom and I were wandering around genuinely scared, because we were like, one, you don't want to mess with Lauren. You don't want to get on Lauren's bad side. And we thought, oh no. If Lauren doesn't like this game, she's going to take it out on us, and that's going to be bad. We are not making it through this weekend. And so we kept wandering around going, oh God, I hope she likes it. The first thing when you finally like reunited with us, we're like, well, was it good? And you said yes. And I think both of us just let out a just collective like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Pragmata was, the part that I played was very good. To set it up for the audience, game was announced, I think, a few years ago. It kind of disappeared into the ether. People didn't really know what to expect from it. But it's basically like a new IP, we think. You might have to look at our social channels to find out if there's a tie to another game. But you're on this space station and you play as a guy called Hugh, incredibly average name, and an android named Diana. And you play as both simultaneously. You are like moving Hugh around, and he has a spacesuit that lets him kind of jump and hover a little bit further than the average person. And he has weapons that he can pick up. And then Diana is the android who has these hacking powers. And you have to kind of tag team them. So in combat encounters, which was a lot of like basically robots on the space station, you can only damage their health once they've been hacked. And to do that, you have to do these little quick time kind of puzzles that pop up in the midst of combat. And the easiest comparison is Marvel Spider-Man, like the hacking challenges or the coding challenges in that game, where you have to guide like an arrow through certain blocks and then reach the end point. And then that hacks them and takes down their defenses for a while, and then you can shoot them. So it's this kind of interplay between hacking and shooting at the same time. And while you're hacking, it's not like time freezes. Like enemies will still come at you. So you have to do it incredibly quickly. And it's extremely stressful, but it works for some reason. Like once you get the hang of it and you get the rhythm of it, it flows and it's really satisfying. So it took me a little while, but I did start to like really hone in on it and enjoy it. I didn't 100% complete the demo because I died during the boss battle. And then for some reason, this was one floor. It took me back to like, I don't know, 3 levels before the boss battle, and I had to get back up to it. So that chewed up a bunch of my time, which was really frustrating. However, they played the exact same demo during the Capcom panel. So we saw what the resolution of that scenario was. And I know what to do for next time. But yeah, apart from that, the game looks really great. The graphics were incredible. The kind of sci-fi world that we're exploring is quite interesting. They teased that there's like this whole city on this space station, like a New York Times Square kind of thing that we'll get to look at. So I think it does have my interest. I'm not 100% bought into the story yet. It does seem a little bit like it's Last of Us in space. Like you've got this big gruff guy and this young girl, and you're going through this, teaming up and going through this station together. It did sort of like scratch that part of my brain. So I'm like, will I be as invested in them? We'll have to find out. But it was good. Was it worth 4 hours? No comment.
Is anything?
I
Maybe
don't know
getting
if it
to
was-
PAX, because it took
Yeah.
a little bit longer than that to actually get there. But I'm happy to hear that you enjoyed it. 2026 for that game, right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. The secret Mega Man game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, do you have a highlight, a story?
I don't know
From
if it's a
PAX?
highlight necessarily. I mean, part of it is a highlight, but it is a story. And that's the fact that on the Friday, we had a really good time.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I
You know where this is going. We had a really good time on the Friday. We were just, kind of experiencing everything that PAX had to offer. And then we had this, which I'm sure we'll also talk about more in detail, this indie mix showcase kind of mixer event in the evening. So we thought we would leave the convention a little bit earlier just so we can get some food, freshen up a little bit, and, take it easy a little bit. And then as we were leaving the convention, I looked down at my lanyard and I realized, guys, my badge is gone. It's just gone. So I don't know what happened necessarily, whether it was swiped, whether I held the lanyard too close to my chest or something, and like it unclipped and it fell off or something. We retraced our steps. It would have happened in like a 15-minute window because I know I'd seen that my badge was still attached like 50 minutes before that happened. And sometime in between, it was just gone. We looked around, couldn't find anything. And went to the info desk, and they were basically like, "Yeah, we can't replace it like with your QR code. The only way we can do it is if someone hands in another 4-day pass, because it was a 4-day pass, and then we would be able to give you like a replacement that way." So luckily, we went somewhere else, and they were able to give a spare Friday pass. And we basically just looked around to see if we could find it. Again, couldn't find anything. So I did have to shell out for a Saturday badge, which was tough after spending $200 or whatever plus whatever for the 4-day one. But there is a happy ending to the story because luckily I got a call later on Saturday, I think, and luckily someone had turned in a badge. It wasn't my badge, and I was able to get a replacement basically. So for the Sunday and Monday, I had a 4-day pass again. But it's just insane. Like it's never happened to me before in terms of like losing a badge like that. I was like trying to stay calm about it, but internally kind of like, okay, this is rough. But I'm glad there's at least a happy ending to that story. But I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts about that? Like how that was handled and all that stuff.
I'm not going to go off on like PAX management on this podcast, but it's kind of insane that that must happen quite often. These things are attached to like fairly flimsy lanyards, and there are people out on the street selling badges for a price. Like you can see that stealing badges would be an issue. And I had just expected that they would replace it for you because you have a receipt. Like you have a QR code that was linked to. At San Diego, if you lose your badge, it is like linked to your order number, so you can just go up and they'll print, like, give you a new one. And I just expected the same thing would happen here. So when that did not happen, I was like, what is this organization? This is insane. But yeah, after that, Klein and I were like, we are double linking our badges. We are like attaching them to us with locks and chains, or in Klein's case, a pipe cleaner. But we took precautions. So I would probably recommend that to people going forward. Like, really keep an eye on that thing.
Yeah, my pipe cleaner accessory really worked out. Wrapped it around it a couple times. No one was getting to that badge. It was the things we do for security, but yeah, that's probably. I don't want to say that was the highlight of the weekend, but it was the most the biggest event of the weekend. I think
For sure.
was Tom. Like if we were to graph the weekend, it would probably be like there'd be like a spike in all of our heart rates. But
Yeah.
it's okay. We
It worked
got
out.
tacos after
Yeah.
and went to the indie mix and everything was okay. And then you know what? The next day you got a 4-day pass, so
Yeah.
it was fine.
Yeah, it swings and roundabouts, like, and the thing is, like, if I hadn't got a spare pass, maybe I'd feel differently about it. But the fact that they did eventually get me one, like, that is, something to commend in some respect, I guess. So, but yeah, just watch out for your badges. That's the moral of the story. Just double lanyard it, triple lanyard it, quadruple lanyard. I don't know. Like, just
bring a lanyard from home that's sturdier.
Yeah, honestly, do what you got to do, because either people be snatching or lanyards be flimsy. This, I guess, is what the takeaway is.
Klein, did you have a story? Because I actually realized I didn't get to the happy ending of my story.
What was the happy ending of your story?
Well, it was that I missed the panel, which was very disappointing. But I did get to go to the signing with the Life is Strange cast, and that was more important to me, I think, in the grand scheme of things. I would have liked to have done both, but I did get to. My goal was to like go and basically tell them like how much that game meant to me, because it got me through a very difficult time during COVID when I was like stuck at home by myself for 3 months, and that game basically became my world. And I got to tell the cast that, so that was very meaningful to me. And despite my reservations about that line, which also was slow and poorly organized, and I wouldn't do it that way if I was in charge, the actual experience.
What I'm hearing is
very nice.
Organizers of PAX, Lauren Rouse, look her up on LinkedIn, because she has some ideas. Consulting,
I do, honestly.
Anything you need, she has some ideas. My story, it's funny, I asked the question, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? Because you guys talked about, I mean, we had plenty of late nights in the hotel room playing Sin2 Nerdle. Shout out. Is that our game of the show? I don't know. You can play it now in your browser. I think for me, if I'm going to, it's not really a story, it's kind of an event. The highlight of the weekend for me was Friday night after the first day of the show. Tom had lost his badge. We'd gotten really wet burritos, like just I don't know, they were fine. Sorry, Taco Del Mar in the Seattle Convention Center.
What are you gonna do?
And then we went to this indie mix event, and I guess a couple of weeks ago, before PAX came out or PAX happened, these kind of press releases went out saying we're doing this showcase. And I had heard about the showcase from various podcasts I've listened to over the years. The indie mix is kind of separate from PAX, and they do a couple each year. One, I think, at GDC in San Francisco, the one here, and they kind of pair up a like live stream E3 style showcase with a kind of indie mixer for anyone can get a ticket for gamers, but there is a lot of like press and PR and game devs and kind of going around and playing games. And so when I got this press release in my email, I was like, you know what, guys, let's shoot for the stars. We're going for this event for the weekend. We are putting our all out there. We are working these late nights. We are doing like really putting in the effort. Like, let's go all out and really try and make this thing happen. And so we got in, we applied, and we got in as press. It was our first like accredited, I guess, press event as Controller Club, which is very cool. We got to play so many incredible games, some of which were not playable on the PAX West floor. My game of the show was there. Shout out Rebounder, 33 games. But it was just so cool to be in this room as a fan of PAX, as a fan of the gaming industry, as somebody who's followed this industry since, I think, 2011 is when I started really listening to like gaming podcasts with Podcast Beyond at IGN PlayStation and things like that. To be in the room with some of those people that I've heard their voices and seen their faces and even shared DMs or emails with over the years, and like have a conversation, talk. We had wonderful Tabitha from Uber Strategies PR, like who we have talked to here on the show behind the scenes many times. got to shake her hand and say hello. Various people that I've looked up to for a long time got to like share a drink with and just hang out. And I think that was like very cool. And we played incredible games. Lauren, you talked about one game. I'm going to talk about one game. Rebounder, guys, if you don't know, now you know. Very small Canadian team from Edmonton, Alberta, 33 games. It is essentially a hardcore platformer where they took, if you don't know Kaizo Mario, which is like super hard Mario, there's this technique called shell jumping where you grab a shell, you throw it up, and you can like jump on it when it's in the air. They basically took that mechanic and turned it into a game where you are using these bomb flowers throughout the environment as this little adorable astronaut who's on this bungee cord and detonating them and grabbing them and throwing them. And that's all you do in the game, but you're doing every which variation of that in various orders and in these incredibly hard environments. And it just did such a great job in this demo of kind of teaching you, here's how you do this one thing, and here's how you do this one thing, and now let's pair those together, and now let's teach you another two things, and now let's pair those four things together until you're essentially by the end speaking an entire language. I did not finish the demo. I probably stood at that TV for, I don't know, time melted away 30 minutes, maybe more, when as Lauren and Tom kind of talked to the devs and the PR people there, and I was just enamored by this game. I have since had a demo build sent to me, and I have now progressed further than I was in the demo at the Indie Mix. But like, this game it's my game of the show. This demo, I was saying to Tom today as I was playing it here in my living room, might like the Rebounder demo might be my game of the year for 2025. Like, it is so incredibly polished. And I was like, this game's done. You did it. You nailed it. And then they were like, yeah, but it's coming in January 2027, or that's the earliest it's coming. And I'm like, no, I want more of this now. I'm gonna, like, this is my Silksong now. Like, this is the only game I will be thinking of for, I guess, literal years to come. Rebounder, look it up, Steam wishlist it. Like, it is just absolutely incredible. I just threw a lot out there, guys. So Indie Mix, Rebounder, anything at all, take it away.
Yeah.
Well, explain what's the catch with Rebounder, like why it's different to other platformers.
Well, it's that shell jump mechanic that you are using these like bomb flowers to throw up, bounce off, detonate. You're basically just chaining together throws, jumps, and these detonations in every which way possible to traverse these kind of like Celeste-sized screen size levels, I guess is the best way I could put it. So if you die, you are... Oh, the art style is incredible. Too. The art style, it looks kind of almost like crinkled paper, and it has this like crinkle effect. It looks like it is being cut together almost like a kind of pop art collage in a little bit. It's got this like very cool punk rock energy. And yeah, and when you die, because it is incredibly hard, you will die. I just finished the level today that I had like 105 deaths in. You are only going back as far as like the screen you are on, maybe 2 screens in some of the longer sections, but you're on this like bungee cord. So when you do it, like you fall and then it goes like kind of boing and like bounces you kind of all the way back through the level to the beginning of it. But it is, yeah, it's insane.
It's really good. Like, because I got to play
Tom,
it too.
You got a chance to play too.
Yeah, they had a Steam Deck like running the game as well. And like Klein said, it just felt super polished for a game that is so far away. That it's like, oh damn, I wish I could play this thing. But yeah, it just felt super pulpy, and like the like that kind of tether cord that brings you back if you fall off a platform or if you die. Felt super satisfying even if you don't get that perfect jump to progress to the next screen. So if it weren't for Klein mentioning it here, I think it probably would have been my game of the show too. It was just like so good, and I can't wait to play it properly. But yeah, in terms of the indie mix itself, like speaking of Rebounder, like we got to talk to one of the devs on the team from 33 Games, and like talking to him as well as all the other devs, it was just so cool to hear how passionate the people behind these games are. The guy from 33 Games was saying how like noticing Klein playing Rebounder, and then noticing like, oh, like he's having trouble with like diagonal throws. I think that's something to keep in mind and like improve with the game, and probably like kind of telegraph that a bit more to the player. So that it wasn't just that like they were talking about their games and like wanting to promote them. It was like they were actively trying to improve them at the same time, and get feedback and actively hear what people wanted, what we're getting out of these games, which I thought was really heartwarming. But yeah, I think just that event, as a whole was definitely my highlight from the show. It was just so much fun getting the chance to talk to just having a chat like with these developers while getting to play their games, and writing down way more games that I have to keep my eye on, as as games come out, which is a blessing and a curse because there's so much to play, but I want to play all of it. So yeah, it was just like it was such a joy. I wish we could do that sort of thing like all the time, but it was such a good event, and I'm like, props to the organizers for putting it on because it was really well laid out, and just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was cool to see like the process that you described, Tom, where it is a case of it's not really like a big polished Nintendo booth where the game's coming out in 2 months and they're just showing off a little bit to get people to invest and choose to buy it in October. It's like, uh, these games are malleable. Like we were talking to the Rebounder guy, and he was saying like, that game is early on. They had, I think, the stages that you played, kind of probably maybe most of the extent that they've finished. And we were asking how long it was going to be. It was like, well, we planned, like 20 plus more stages like that. I'm like, there's so much more to come in that game. But really, this is their way of testing these things with an audience to see, like, do we have something here? What do we need to do to make this better? And again, in the case of Rebounder, I don't think they'd had like a publisher attached, but getting the feedback from the audience can like help them understand what they've got on their hands. So that is like something that is very cool and something you probably wouldn't get a chance to do outside of a place like PAX. But those events is just so important, I think, for these smaller games and newer devs, and that was really cool to be a part of that and to see that in person.
I think that's honestly like one of the biggest surprises that I had going into PAX. I'd seen like, obviously there's things like the Indie Game the movie and various, I don't know, depictions of PAX I've seen over the years, and I didn't, I guess, realize how close you are to these people making the games. It's not very often where you get to stand there and play the thing, watch the thing, or listen to the thing next to the person who is like putting their everything into making it. And like, I'm just reminded of, it's another game we'll probably talk about, a highlight of the show for all of us, Arcane. We're standing there, this amazing indie game, this woman standing there, and in any other instance, I would just think, oh, this is like a hired contractor or something. But I could tell that no, this person is really engaged with people talking about the game, what's going on. And we asked, and oh yeah, it's her game. Her and her husband, they're the team, and just then we go on to have this like half hour, 20-minute conversation about the thing that they are like putting their everything creatively and in some cases financially into, to like make a dream happen. And I think that that's like so cool and so unique, and not something like, you don't get to do that with movies. You don't get to do it with music, maybe like if it's a small indie artist or whatever, like, but in that case, with PAX, it's so different in that way that you can really stand there and experience somebody's like art right there in front of them.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen it kind of on the sidelines with my friends like Sam and Kostya, who we've had on the show. They did Copycat. They went through a very similar process where they did this convention circuit and had to go out there and tell people about their game, 100, 200 times a day, help people, guide people through these demos. And like, it can be a grueling process, but you've got to remember, like, this is someone's dream. Like, this is what they're working on every single day of their life. Like, they know this thing inside out. And I imagine it's very exhausting, but this is what has to be done to get people like us to know about it and to get it out there, because it might just not, it's not going to reach the heights of something like Nintendo. Like, hopefully it does, like it'll become a Balatro and be at the Game Awards and things like that, but it has to start somewhere, and we were at the start, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm. I think we should talk more about the games, and then at the end we can kind of wrap up with talking about our coverage and where you the listener, the viewer, can find everything that we've done. But I think we should talk more about what we've played. Tom, Lauren and I have both talked about a game that I think is on kind of our favorites of the show. You haven't yet, so you can start here. What is one of your favorite games that you want to kind of highlight here from PAX West 2025?
Yeah, so I think I'll start with the big one. And I think it probably was my game of the show. Ultimately, I go back and forth between a lot of these, but Lauren already mentioned Pragmata was one of the games she played at the Capcom booth. I eventually did get to the Capcom booth and played Resident Evil Requiem. Luckily, didn't have to wait as long as Lauren did. I waited like about 2 hours, I think. Shout out again, Clyde mentioned Oscar, who was a guy we met on the show floor, and he accompanied me along this demo journey. But they had a lot more booths. They had like 23 booths in the room where they were demoing Resident Evil, so a little bit more than Pragmata and Amusha had. But yeah, it was a very dark room as well, so they were definitely adding to the atmosphere. But as for the game itself, I'm a relative newcomer to Resident Evil. I've only played like 3 of the games, and one of them was Village, which is like first person, which Requiem is kind of like a mix of both third and first person. I played in first person, and God, it was terrifying, but it was so much fun. It was like super claustrophobic and isolated in comparison to Village, because Village is so much more. Well, you're in a village, first of all. Like it felt a lot more claustrophobic than that, because you have these open spaces in Village where you can see the sky, you can see like a far off building. So if something's chasing you, like you're not in that much danger. You could probably feasibly get away. I know there are sequences in Village which you're stuck in a location, but this felt like, oh, you're in here and you can't get out. You basically were dropped in this like hotel, and your protagonist this time is this woman called Grace Ashcroft, who is kind of like this agent who is very introverted and terrified of everything, which added a kind of unique element to it. And it builds off of this, apart from the reveal trailer where she's kind of tied upside down, attached to a drip, and she has to cut herself free, and then you're kind of set off into these narrow corridors. Everything's very dark, and it feels very much like PT, which is Hideo Kojima's demo essentially for what he wanted to do with Silent Hill as a franchise. But once you get to a certain point, the kind of main monster appears, who is this giant freaky woman, and not in like the giant freaky woman like Lady Dimitrescu from Village.
Not the sleigh way.
Not the sleigh way. Well, there's a sleigh element, but not in that way. But
Can't wait to hear that.
Grotesque, horrible, freaky, like towering 10-foot thing. She's got like this gaping jaw, so when she catches up to you, she'll like take a massive bite out of Grace. It was insane. Ooh. I wasn't able to finish because there were a lot of different elements. You had to like double back. It almost felt kind of Metroidvania-esque, where you had to like go find like some items and then take them back to certain areas. But again, shout out to Oscar, because I was really scared playing the demo. I was kind of bouncing up and down and squealing. And I'm pretty sure that the staff there were having a little giggle behind me, and they were like saying like, "Oh no, watch out!" Like in the back, and I thought it was like, "Is this part of the game?" But I realized they were just trying to mess with me. But it was so much fun. I can't wait to play this game, because like I'm really interested to see how they kind of integrate both the third and first person, because there is a curated mode where they kind of flip between the two. So yeah, I just had so much fun with this, even though I was shitting my pants for like a lack of a better term. It was so good, and I can't wait to play the full thing.
I'm not playing Resident Evil right now.
No,
Lauren, I don't know about you.
Either, but good for you, Tom.
That's okay.
Happy for you.
I can do it.
We'll leave that one to you. But I'm glad you had fun. And yeah, again, shout out Oscar. You're getting the shout outs today, because you kept our boy Tom Drew safe from the weird gaping maw lady in the Resident Evil demo.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like a bit ahead of him in the demo too, so he was kind of getting a preview of what to expect. And I'm pretty sure he was just like laughing at me, like doing these things and getting freaked out, and then he would get freaked out because he hadn't got to that point yet. So yeah, Oscar, the boy.
Lauren, I teed it up a little bit, but do you want to talk more about Arcane Eats? Because what they're doing is just like another the dichotomy of PAX. You have you have things as big as Capcom, and then you have 2-person teams making like these little indie gems. And I think Arcane Eats is definitely one of those indie gems that I will call myself out all weekend long. You're talking about, I want to go see Arcane Eats, and I was like, it's a cozy cooking game, whatever. And we walk up to the booth, and I was like, whoa, Whoa, wait.
Wait.
What kind of game is this? Is this a roguelike deck builder, you say? Oh my goodness. But yeah, Lauren, take it away. Arcade Eats.
Yeah, it's rare that I can like recommend a game that Klein hasn't heard of, but yeah, I did. I was like vaguely aware of Arcane Eats. I think it had come up. I follow some like cozy indie game sites, and it had come up in one of those, and I saw that they were there. And I was like, great, this is my chance to give it a try. But it is, as you said, it's a rogue like deck builder cooking game with this cute cartoon art style set in a kind of like magical fantasy village, and you are like the cook, the chef at this pub, diner, whatever, and you have basically cards are meals or like ingredients, and each turn you can like stack cards to cook meals, and customers will come in with they different levels of hunger, and you have to basically sate them, and then they'll pay you and leave. And if you can't do that, you start again, and that's where the roguelike part comes in. But in between rounds, which was what really threw me at first, I was like, this is fun, but it's a demo. I'm on the show floor. I'm not 100% locked into exactly what I should be doing. So I was kind of just throwing around cards and hoped that it would work. But what really got me was like at the end of the round, the world kind of opens up, and you get to like go and purchase things in different shops, and you can upgrade your cookware and buy different recipes. And that really got me intrigued. And that's like also the roguelike element of it, where you get to go and upgrade your stuff for the next round. So it's they were very early. This was one of the first places that they were showing off this game. They were also at Gamescom. We were speaking to Wonderbelly Games. Yeah, I think they said they'll have a demo hopefully later this year or early next year, and then potentially be released by next year. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. They seem like a lovely, like Klein said, 2-person team, and what they've been able to create with just 2 people is stunning. And it was definitely one of those ones that wasn't really hugely on my radar, but getting the chance to play it has put it like firmly on my wish list. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one come along.
I almost put it on my list as one of the favorite things I saw. I didn't even get to play it. I was just like, I underestimated Arcane Eats. I'm sorry. And then I was talking to her, and she's like, yeah, we're the team that made Round Guard, which is this excellent like action dungeon crawler mixed with Peggle from a couple years ago that I played a very good many hours of on my PC. And so when she said that, I'm like, you know what? I am in your hands now. I have seasons tickets. I will be there day one. But the best part of the demo, and this is coming from somebody who loves and adores roguelike deck builders, wasn't the deck building. It had nothing to do with the cards, even though Lauren was playing the cards. I'm like, no. What's that? What's that word? What's that mean? What's that mechanic? It was at the very end when a goblin, or no, not a goblin, I guess, a fairy showed up in the restaurant, and his name was Guy Fairy, and she revealed to us that there are fantasy spoofs of celebrity famous chefs in the game. And I was like, you had me, and now you have me twice. Like, how do I give you my money now? How do I give it to you again when it releases? Because just fantastic. Shout out Wonderbelly Games, Arcane Eats. Summer next year, I think, is she was like we're aiming for. But again, it's a team of 2 people. Things shift around.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I again like was only just watching over Lauren's shoulder, but I was super impressed by it too. Like, I haven't played a bunch of deck building stuff other than like Balatro, but this had me hooked. Like, the kind of cooking angle to it was really fun. And yeah, I think another one, like another celebrity chef she mentioned, was like Gordon Ramsay or something like that. So Gordon Ramsay, but mixed with like a Medusa sort of monster. So yeah, this is definitely going to be one I'm going to keep my eye on for sure.
So I think we've talked about one of the biggest games there, and we've talked about a very small game there. I think we should talk a bit about a very big small game that was there. Hollow Knight Silksong was playable on the show floor. Lauren and I got a chance to play it. Tom was off being scared by the lady with the big mouth, and it's hard not to give it my game of the show. Like, if I'm only talking PAX, it's definitely my game of the show. Rebounder was outside of PAX, so I'm almost like making it separate.
Technicalities.
The PAX weekend. But like, it's Hollow Knight Silksong at the time of recording is less than 24 hours away, so everyone is going to get to play it very, very soon. Probably by the time you hear this, you are actively playing it. Playing the demo was so kind of like a magical experience, even though I'm not like I'm only playing and trying to finish Hollow Knight for the first time right now. It was just like such an arduous experience getting to play Hollow Knight Silksong. For reference, you had to go to the Nintendo booth, which wasn't the main Nintendo booth that had like Pokemon and Kirby Air Riders there. This was a separate Nintendo booth that had a bunch of Switch 2 setups with Borderlands and Final Fantasy and Hades 2 and a bunch of things. And then they had a little tiny table that had, on the first day, 4 Switches around it. By the second day, had 8. And you had to wait in the line around. And then it got to a certain point, and they would randomly assign you or give you a ticket if you were chosen. And then you could go and get in line to just play Hollow Knight Silksong. If you stayed in the regular line, you could go and play everything else. And one morning, Lauren and I, we were actually going to go play Crimson Desert, which was there. And we kind of, on our way there, Lauren says, you know what? Let's just try. And we walked right up, and the lady was handing out tickets, and we got to play it. And yeah, it's, as somebody who's playing Hollow Knight for really like as deep as I am right now for the first time right now, Hollow Knight Silksong was actually a genuine step up for me from what I am playing of Hollow Knight on the current Switch, like the current Switch version on my Switch 2. The graphics look so much sharper. It feels like it runs so much smoother. I love how acrobatic Hornet feels as a main character. This new character, you can do this kind of like dive move that you didn't have in the first game. It feels a little bit faster. There are a few different things, like in the original Hollow Knight, to heal yourself, you hold down A, and the longer you hold, the more you will heal. In this, it was very much like you were charging up almost a battery, but you're I think weaving silk, and then you kind of pressed it once, and it would heal you 3 health points all at once. I'm sure there will be ways to like switch that around as you're going throughout the game, but just in the heat of battle, that it felt so much faster. It felt even a little bit more engaging. We played kind of 2 levels, a tutorial forest level, this beautiful little grove with a boss at the end, and then a deeper point in the game that had kind of lots of machinery and refinery equipment and lots of lava and fire, and that had a boss at the end. I got through the first part and beat the boss, and then got to the boss in the second part. Didn't quite beat it. The like 11-year-old, 12-year-old girl next to me who could not have been more excited to play Hollow Knight Silksong just went right into the hard level, cleared the boss like that, and the Nintendo staff around her were kind of like, "Oh my gosh, like you've played this game before, haven't you?" But I thought it was so cool to experience a gaming unicorn a little bit before it has come out to the public, because this has kind of been the white whale for so long.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of a different perspective because Hollow Knight is kind of just something that's existed around me. I've never actually dabbled with it. I think I would like it based on, even before playing Silksong, I was like, that's on my list for one day. I like Hornet. I like, who's the one in the first game?
I don't really know if he has a name.
I like the Hollow Knight.
I guess, yeah.
Like, I love their designs. It's from an Australian team, so I gotta like support. It's patriotic of me. And yeah, it's just always just sort of been on my radar. So I used this basically going in. I was like, I want to play Silksong. I didn't know it was going to be as difficult to play as it was. So we were very lucky in the regard that we did get tickets to play, because it was, again, if you want to ask me how to run a line, that's not how I would do it. But anyway, yeah, so I was using this as a test to be like, is this something that I want to play? And, you know, these demos, they're like 10 minutes. You're kind of just dropped in and you have to make the most of it. So I didn't get the best context, but what I saw was definitely like, this is something I want to return to. Particularly, this was actually the first time I had played on a Switch 2. Like, I'd seen your guys's during the week, and but I hadn't actually played one myself or held it, and I did notice instantly they're way bigger and they're way heavier, so it wasn't the most like comfortable experience, but it was like 2 things I got to try out at once. And yeah, I found the game to be, as a complete newcomer, it was difficult, but it wasn't smashing my head against the wall difficult. It was like giving me enough progression that I was like, okay, I'll try again. The worlds were just like, every little corner that you fell into was just so interesting, and there was something new to find. I do wish the map was active, but I guess I knew why that wasn't happening, because it was a demo, and you don't really have time for that kind of stuff. But I know that there is a map in the actual game. And yeah, it played super smoothly and it looked amazing. So it does have my vote when it comes out later this week. It won't be an instant thing, because I'd like to play Hollow Knight, the first one, first. But it does have like my vote of confidence, and I'm really glad that we got to try it.
Yeah, I'm just like sitting here being like, I'm the only one who's finished the game and I didn't get to play it. Like, that's so
but Tom,
crazy.
You'll get to play tomorrow. It's fine.
This is the thing, so I wasn't too bummed out. But it was a crazy way of kind of setting out that whole Nintendo experience of like apparently it's a very last minute addition, so I get it, but I'll play it tomorrow, so it's not too big of a deal.
From what I've heard, it's an identical demo to the demo that was shown to press in 2019.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they've had this demo sitting around for a while. But Tom, because you didn't get to play Silksong, how about you talk about a game that you did get to play? Maybe like, I don't know, a cool indie Persona-like Buffy the Vampire vibe.
Yeah. So I got to play a game called Demonschool, which was, it was basically like playing an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was essentially this game, like cliented up, very Persona-like, where you're playing as this group of, I guess, high school kids, and there are creepy entities just kind of haunting different areas of the school, different areas of the town, and you have to kind of deal with it. But it's all in this really like gorgeous pixel art style, and it's all set in the 90s, so it's like got like really like retro for our generation, I guess, but like all these 90s like iconography and like technology around, and it's super cool. It was just like I said, an episode of Buffy where like I could see the archetypes, like, oh, that's the character's basically just Willow, or that character's Cordelia or Xander or whatever, but you basically do all the school stuff very similar to Persona, and then it switches over to like a battle system where you have to fight against demons, but in a very different format to Persona. In that game, it's very much turn-based, but this is turn-based but in a different way. This feels more like Fire Emblem, where you have to basically maneuver your characters along a grid and position them like opposite enemies, and based on where you put them, they'll deal damage or not. So it almost felt like you were basically solving a puzzle each battle, combined with having to take down these enemies at the same time. So it really tickled my brain. I really liked how it took a bit of getting used to, obviously, because there's a lot going on, and like Laura mentioned, these demos throw you in. You don't have a lot of time to figure stuff out a lot of the time. But once it clicked, I was having so much fun going through and just like moving people around and taking down demons. And the ways that different party members can interact with each other, I thought was super cool. They also have like, the one thing that really stood out to me is the dialogue. There is no like voice acting or anything like Persona, but they have these like little Ace Attorney-esque like sound effects, but they're all just a little bit like spooky. Like they just sound a bit like off, depending on like the kind of reaction your party members have to one another when they're talking. So yeah, I think this game comes out in like November, I want to say. So pretty soon. I think this game was also like at the last PAX. From what other people were telling me, but this is definitely one I'm going to pick up because just love the whole vibe of it. I didn't know I needed like a Buffy game, but this is essentially what I'm getting with this game. So I'm very excited to try it out fully.
I also got a chance to give it a try, and this is probably the hardest thing I played in a demo setting, at least at PAX. Like I played Elden Ring on the Switch. That's a very difficult game. But this being dropped in, like you said, Lauren, with Hollow Knight, without any context, right into a battle, I had a lot of troubles. Like I actually finished or died the first couple times. Like, I don't know if I like this game. And then what Tom was describing with this grid-based system and really like treating it more like a puzzle than like an RPG fight kind of opened it up for me. And I really enjoyed the style of this game. I think that's what drew me into Demonschool and has in the trailers that I've seen. It just is this gorgeous pixel art. The soundtrack is like this kind of like, sure, it's spooky, but it's got this really pixely edge on it because it is all this beautiful pixel art that you're actually watching. And it feels, honestly, to me, because I don't have that Buffy touchstone, but it feels to me like the way I felt watching I Saw the TV Glow in 2024. Like, it just is emitting this very, very distinct signature, unlike anything I've ever seen energy. And I think that it was really cool. I don't know if the battle system is for me. I did finally conquer the battle I was having troubles with, but the style and the music and the characters really did draw me in.
I didn't play this one, but it sounds intriguing. But I got too many games after this weekend.
The main character did kind of look like there's some Brie Larson elements in the character design. I'll just
with like exactly how to get me
with like a wolf cut though. Okay, Lauren, let's talk about a game that you did play. So
okay,
What do you want to talk about?
I think I'll talk about, like, I'm hesitant to call this my game of the show only because I probably knew it always would be. So it really just like met expectations. It didn't really need to do anything, but it was Hades 2. I got to play Hades 2. I was so excited. I've been holding off on playing this because I wanted to wait for the full thing, but obviously this is a demo, so it's a little bit different. And it's just like fulfilling all my wildest fantasies, basically. It is exactly what I want from this sequel. And again, very little context when you're being thrown into these demos. So I kind of, that frustrated me a little bit, but it hasn't made me any less excited to play the game. But it just feels like a perfect sequel from what I could see, which is that it's the same bones, but then they've upgraded things slightly. So you play as Melinoe. I don't know what the official pronunciation is, but she's a witch. So it's a very different corner of the underworld, but it's still a lot of the familiar characters. The character designs, I don't know what they did to them, but they're hotter somehow. And the gameplay is just slightly more advanced in that it's like you can still do all the your cast, your dash, your attack, but if you like hold those buttons, it's like you get something extra, and that was really cool for me. So that was like the main thing that I took away, and also the crossroads, which is basically the version of the House of Hades or whatever they called it in the first game, has like way more things to do. There was a lot of staff members who are like, you could spend the entire demo looking around this place. So if you want to get to the game, like, we just recommend you rush through, which is kind of what I did. But like the promise of what is in Hades 2 is like very, very exciting for me. And I just want it now. Like, I want it now. Please, Supergiant, just release it now.
It's got to be done soon. Like, it felt so polished there. It is a demo. That's the beginning of the game that they throw you into. I think that's how Hades 2 early access started. And I haven't touched early access in a while, really, since it's probably almost been a year since the last time I downloaded it and really did a deep dive. And just getting back into it and being reminded of like, oh yeah, there are so many more systems going on in this game compared to Hades 1. When you get back to the crossroads the first time, there's so many more exclamation points that pop up and you're like, oh, I can go and do this. And they have implemented this like kind of tarot card system that I don't remember being in the first game, where you're collecting a completely different resource to upgrade your character and make you even better for your next battle. And it is, as you said, feels like the perfect sequel to what felt like a perfect game in Hades. So I guess whenever it comes out, game of the year, watch out.
Yeah, watch out indeed. Because we got to play this. I think Klein and I both played it portably, and I think you, Lauren, played it like on the docs version.
I played it twice. I did.
Yeah, so did I. I did both.
Okay, well, I didn't go to the Nintendo booth twice like you guys. You don't have to rub it in. But I will say, playing it portably, just like it ran so well. Unlike maybe one other game in the Nintendo booth. But it just felt so smooth. I loved, like you mentioned, Lauren, the combat updates. Like the risk reward of holding down the attack buttons was really satisfying. And I think it's called the snare ability that the Melinoe has, and it basically creates this casting circle where if an enemy is in that, they basically can't escape it. So you have basically like round up enemies and take them out a lot more easily. Did you guys make it to the final boss at the end?
I beat it.
You beat the boss?
I did. I got an applause.
Damn, that's crazy. I mean, I got to the boss like the first time round. I was on like 7 HP, I think, so I died very quickly. But like that, it really got its hooks in me. Like that roguelike like system that Hades has in particular, they do such a good job with like that gameplay loop. So I was very sad when the demo like basically ended after I died to the boss. But yeah, I echo what you guys say. I can't wait to play this game.
It has to be soon. Like the last early access update just went out, so I don't know. I
wouldn't be surprised if it's the end of the year.
You think it could still be 2025?
I mean, Hades, the first one came out in like a December release, so I'm just like holding out hope.
Maybe. It's possible. I could see a world where that happens, honestly.
That's crazy. Yeah, it ran so well on Switch Handle. I was playing Switch 2. I'm like, oh, like as I've played on PC, that's the only experience I've had with Hades 2 so far. But I played Hades 1 exclusively portably on my Switch 1. And so to hold that Switch 2 again and hold Hades on a Switch again and just see how it was moving and using those buttons, I was like, yes, this is how this game was meant to be played. I did try on the TV for the first time and it was a different experience. I beat the boss that way, so maybe maybe I'm better at the game on the TV, but it just portably was like, that's my preferred form factor. I want to touch on my last game because it's an easy jump off of from Switch. We had a fun day on the last day of PAX. We went and had a couple appointments. We managed to secure warp passes, which was a way they were doing to schedule people who wanted to play some in-demand Nintendo demos. They had Pokemon Legends ZA on the floor and Kirby Air Riders. I would like to shout out Pokemon ZA because on this show, on live streams that we've done for the show, on various podcast episodes, I've been talking some smack about this game. I don't think it's presented very well. I think that the world looked drab in trailers. The performance, I was like, oh my God, this does not look good. I've never, like, Legends Arceus intrigued me a little bit, but like, I am a traditional Pokemon player. I was a huge fan of the turn-based ones, usually like Game Boy, DS, and then I kind of fell off and have dipped back in over the years. Getting a chance to play this game, wow, this is my biggest surprise of the show, hands down. It just, the active battle combat felt so good and felt so natural to Pokemon that I did not think would happen. When we were running around in this, you kind of had a tutorial area and then a final boss with this mega, you know the word, mega
Absol.
Mega Absol. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what kind of Absol. It was like, it said like Rogue Mega Absol, and it had like the Dark Souls health bar on the top. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But then you're dodging and you're doing these active attacks as opposed to waiting for your turn. It felt like a Final Fantasy, or you mentioned when we were talking about it on our way home yesterday, it felt like Xenoblade.
Yeah.
And that to me was like, oh, this is this action RPG Pokemon formula could work for me. And I take back everything I said about performance. It ran like a dream. I didn't see a frame drop on that sucker. Did you have issues, Lauren?
No, I was just going to say it ran like a dream on Switch too.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh,
we don't know
sure.
what it's going to actually run like on the other Switch.
But Lauren, I have packed my Switch one up, put it in a coffin, and buried it in the backyard. So it is gone. It's dead.
Sorry that some of us are still on the lost generation.
But yeah, I thought it ran super well. Even the world, which I do still think, like, the direction they've gone with the art style in 3D, I am not really the biggest fan of, but the world itself was colorful and really did pop on the big screen TV. But yeah, shout out Pokemon Legends ZA. You got me. I was genuinely surprised. You made me use Growl for the first time in my Pokemon history, which was like kind of crazy because all of your attacks are on like cooldowns. So you're like wasting time if you're not using all of the moves.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah, so you're like, hey, I can get a quick stat buff or whatever here and then hit them with my Razor Leaf or whatever other attack. And that to me was kind of like, I had a bit of a revelatory Pokemon fan moment. I was like, oh, like I never use these passive attacks, but in this kind of action RPG setting, you are forcing me to. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. As the like resident Pokemon fan who's like stayed with the franchise for all this time through the peaks and the valleys, I was really impressed by Legends ZA. I think it took a lot of my criticisms with Legends Arceus, and I really do like Legends Arceus. Is probably one of my favorites. But it just improved upon them all. The big thing when it really came together was that Mega Evolution battle at the end, which is basically this big raid. Like it felt like, I think you described it like a Dark Souls boss.
When I won, I actively felt elation, which is something I don't think I've ever felt in a Pokemon battle.
Yeah,
because I did that.
Because you're like dodging attacks and like there's like different.
Yeah, you're so involved.
Yeah, it's like you have to run around and then you have to build up a meter to Mega Evolve the Lucario they give you. But it felt like a big step up from if you're not familiar with Legends Arceus, there's a similar mechanic with these noble Pokemon, which is basically the same thing. These like golden Pokemon that have gone kind of berserk. But all you can do in Arceus is basically throw pouches at them, which has felt way like less satisfying. But in here, it just feels so much more active, so much more fast-paced because you are literally controlling your player character and your Pokemon at the same time. And it all felt super natural with the way they have this Xenoblade-esque battle system. So I feel a lot more affirmed in this game now. I was quite worried because of like I thought the trailers were fine, but nothing was really blowing me away. But I'm a lot more excited to play Legends ZA than I was previously.
Yeah, I'm very similar. This was one of my highlights of the show, to be honest, in my top 3. I I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but like Legends Arceus is the reason I got a Switch. When I saw like open world Pokemon, I was like, I'm in. That's what I've been waiting for all these years. And I'd say this is like a good evolution of that whole formula. Because Arceus was kind of like most of the way there, but it kind of lagged in like performance. Certain battle techniques weren't great, like you said, Tom. Like it didn't feel as active as this does, and the open environments were pretty bland. I can't say if they've fixed that in this game, just because we didn't explore as much of it. But I'm kind of there for the city vibe. I quite like the idea that it's like an urban environment. It looks like there's some like scaling of like levels that you can go on top of rooftops and go under, like potentially underground and things like that. So that's quite interesting to me. And there's a few like stealth mechanics in there as well, which there were in Arceus as well, but like I think will probably be a little bit more important when you have like these corners to peer around and things like that. So this was super, super exciting for me. I did skip Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which, correct me, Tom, it wasn't from the same studio, or was it?
It is from the same studio.
It's all the same.
Yeah,
studio.
Okay,
it's
we all
Game
just forget
Freak.
that one then. But I'm firmly back on board thanks to this demo, and I really pray to God that it plays on Switch 1, because otherwise that's like I probably will have to fork out a Switch 2 for Pokemon of all things. But yeah, one thing I did want to shout out that really like it was really early on in the demo, and the attendant was like to me, you can pick your Pokemon, like whichever one you want. And I picked it, and it came out of the ball and it walked around the world with me. And I was like, this is amazing. It's like having a pet. So that's something that I personally just really liked out of this new game. Yeah, the only thing that I need, which is probably going to be, you can't really do it in a demo setting, but I always forget like which type is effective against which other Pokemon type. I need like a little grid that tells me what does what, and I'm sure that might come in the actual game. But this was like a really, really strong demo, and yeah, it's probably like a day one for me now.
And speaking of Nintendo, because this was a Warp Pipe Pass experience, do we want to talk about the other Warp Pipe Pass experience we had at the Nintendo booth quickly?
Yeah, we played Kirby Air Riders.
Yeah, and it was
okay.
Yeah, we did a little reaction video to this after we played the demo. I think I was probably the highest on it after playing through the game, but I definitely have come down a little bit more afterwards. I'm a bit mixed. I think there is something there, but I think it would take a lot for me to get to the point where I'm really enjoying it. It was basically, the demo was, we had a bunch of tutorials that we had to play through to kind of get used to the controls. One of the major things is that you don't hold forward on the control stick. You just have to steer with left and right. So that was something to get used to if you're familiar with basically any other car racing game, like a Mario Kart or something like that. And then we launched into City Trial, which is like basically this mode where you have to fight against other opponents by collecting stat bonuses around the world, and then those accumulate, and then there's like a final battle, which is like a different challenge, like a race or a fighting a bunch of different like little enemies, and then you win based off of that. But those controls definitely were something to like overcome, because I was constantly getting a prompt on the screen saying you don't have to hold forward to accelerate. Because I that is instinctively I wanted to do that, because there were moments in this demo where I wanted to go faster, but I was just going super slow, and it takes a little while for you to accelerate. But then other times I was going crazy. I was in like an enclosed area underneath the map, so the camera is just going haywire. I'm going like 60 miles per hour on the map, and I want to slow down, and there's like not an easy way to do that necessarily. So I'm not sure if this is going to be a day one purchase for me, which is tough, because like there are a lot of things I really like about it. I like the character selection. I like the Smash Brosification, if that's a word, of this kind of aesthetic and some of the gameplay aspects to it. And I adore Masahiro Sakurai, and I'm glad that he's working on this game. But like, I'm just not sure if I was fully convinced from playing this demo. But Lauren, did you feel similarly?
Well, I had no investment in this game at all. I was kind of just trying it because it was there. And I continue to have no investment in it because this did not sell me on it really at all. I liked the ideas, which is like it's kind of a Mario Kart meets Smash Brothers kind of battle scenario. And there's some races and challenges and things like that. the colors and the worlds are really nice. Like, it ran very smoothly, but I just couldn't get my head around the mechanics. Like you, Tom, I just wanted to press forward, and I constantly got stuck with vehicles that just like needed to be replaced instantly or stuttered and died. I just couldn't get any momentum. And so I really just didn't enjoy it for that reason. I liked being able to play as Meta Knight, who is like my stan in any kind of Nintendo game, and there are these cool special abilities which if you activate, that was really fun. I enjoyed that. But in terms of like the moment to moment gameplay, I just didn't have anything for me.
I think that it was ultimately a poor demo scenario doing the city trial first, because Kirby Air Ride is ultimately a racing game, and city trial is there, and that is a big draw for a lot of people, and it was in the original game and it will be in this one. But after all the tutorialization getting dropped in there, I would have preferred to have just been dropped, put me in a race with the other demo players, and let's do a traditional 3-lap race, because that's a big part of the game as well. And I think I would have enjoyed that more, because I just, in this city trial scenario, felt like I didn't really know what I was doing. It felt way more chaotic than Mario Kart. My Mario Kart lizard brain, I'm going to have to completely rewire if I want to play this game. And there are moments of it where I'm like, oh, there is something really fun here. I just can't get to it. Like, I can't unlock the thing that will give me access to the fun. And so I left quite frustrated, and which I was kind of bummed out about, because I liked Kirby Air Ride on the GameCube. I haven't played it in probably almost 20 years. I guess that game's 20 years old now. And so coming back to it, I was looking forward to seeing what this franchise could be moving forward. And I do still, I think, want to play it. I'm just like worried I'm not going to be able to meet it where it wants me to meet, like where it wants me to meet it.
Yeah, that's the issue. I think like it's gonna be because in my head, like it's a multiplayer game at the end of the day. Like and like with the Mario Kart thing, some people will struggle obviously, but I feel like if you explain the basics of Mario Kart to someone, it's gonna take a little bit for them to get going, but like they'll pick it up like relatively quickly. I don't think that's gonna be the same thing with Kirby Air Riders, just because there is a lot more going on, obviously, but there's just that inherent thing of wanting to hold forward. Like that's really all there is to it. And I think that's gonna be a big negative against me getting this game potentially, because I want to play this with other people. But I don't know if I'm gonna be able to convince people to play this game versus Mario Kart World, which came out earlier this year, and I've had a lot of fun with. But yeah, which is really sad, like to say. I don't know. Maybe something will come around and I'll change my mind. Maybe I will pick it up eventually. But at the current as it stands, I'm gonna need a little bit more convincing, I think.
Tom, do you want to give us your third and final favorite game?
Yeah, sure. So there were a lot of Metroidvanias at PAX this year that I played. And like the one that stood out to me was one that we played at the Indie Mix showcase, which was also on the show floor, and it was called Fallen Tier: The Ascension. It was basically this game. How do I even describe it? You play as this little fella, I guess is the best way to describe it. And you kind of had to defeat enemies as you pass through screens to get to the next section. So there's like a counter, and you need to find each enemy before you could move on. It was in this gorgeous like hand-drawn art style, but the kind of twist is they mix it with JRPG elements. So as you progress, you encounter different party members, and they'll basically allow you to unlock different abilities. So you'll unlock this chef character, and you'll be able to throw like a frying pan that's on fire and like emblazon enemies, or you'll be able to unlock these like little traps that you can like that appear underneath enemies, and they'll lock them in place so you can defeat them a bit easier. And then once you build up this special gauge, once you have like 3 party members, you do this basically all-out attack where your party members just going haywire, like firing on all cylinders, and it felt very satisfying. Apparently, there are like 22 party members that you can find as well, so there are going to be a lot of different abilities that you can mix and match with. And apparently, this seems like a very ambitious game, because they were saying like at the showcase that this game, if you're a completionist, is going to take you like 85 to 90 hours. A little bit less if you're like on a casual playthrough, but yeah, I just had a lot of fun with it. Like the different abilities that you can unlock, which is the staple of Metroidvania as a genre. But obviously, you get like a dash ability, but there's one where you can like zip to different enemies and do a little bit of damage, and you can like chain that, so you're like just zipping around enemies, doing damage to them. And yeah, I just had a lot of fun with it. Of the Metroidvanias that I played, I think this is the one that stood out the most. Obviously, like maybe if I played Silksong, it would be a different story. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. It's coming out in March, I think, next year, so not too long to go. But seemed like a very ambitious team. It was like a team from the Philippines, and they were really excited for us to play the game. And yeah, I can't wait to see more of it.
This is one of the games that you played that I didn't get to and really wanted to get to, but never got around to it on the show floor. So I'm looking forward to March to finally get to dive into it. Lauren.
I didn't even see this. When did you guys do this? Was I on the line?
No, it was at Indie Mix.
You were maybe doing something, but I can't.
You were playing Liminal Minds.
Yeah.
Or Liminal Isle.
Liminal Skies.
Liminal
Skies.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Which we probably won't have enough time to talk about, but did play that. Okay, I want to talk about one more. Which rounds out my like probably I can't really narrow it down, but this was definitely like in the progression, probably my third favorite. And I didn't even know it was going to be there, but it was my raccoon mailman son. It was Tanuki Pond Summer. They had a booth there for the publisher, so they didn't really have any devs there that we could talk to. But this trailer came out in one of the showcases earlier this year, and I remember thinking there wasn't much for me at the showcase until I saw Raccoon Mailman, and that stuck with me. And so finally getting to play it, it just like, I just had such a big smile on my face the entire time. It was exactly what I thought it would be and more. But basically, as I just said, you are a raccoon who is a mailman, and you're trying to deliver packages around your village to earn money to set up the temple for this festival that's happening. But then there's just these tiny little intricate moments that just make it so much more fleshed out. One of which is like when you go to collect packages, you have to fill your bag like it's Tetris. I'm like, that's so cool. It's so cute. And then when you actually get on the bike, this was just so funny to me. It's all this happy, fluffy music, and then you sit on the bike and it's like rock music, heavy rock, and you're on the bike and you're riding around town and it's so chaotic. It was just so fun. But also, you're doing tricks on the bike. There's like a full like Tony Hawk style like trick system built into this game where you can do rail grinds and backflips and Supermans on the bike. And I'm just like, this is amazing. And then you pair it with this cute little art style, which is just like these 3D colorful animated characters. It's not quite the Ghibli style that they kind of show in the trailers. I don't know if that's going to be maybe in cutscenes or something like that. But it is still very, very adorable. And you just seem to like go around delivering packages, doing silly little tasks for the villagers. And I just love it. I love my son.
Yeah, I got to play this too. And it was just like, it was so charming. Like the Tanuki's little quirky animations, especially like, this sounds kind of sadistic, but when he falls off his bike, you just feel so bad for him when you fail a trick. Yeah, the tricks especially were really fun because there's a lot of like verticality to the little town that you're in. So you can like go up on rooftops. You can go down to these like you go down like telephone wires. Excuse me. And there are like skate parks as well littered around. All while you're carrying these packages that are like stacked like really
so
high.
tall.
It looks ridiculous. You're like, it's like Death Stranding, but you're a raccoon on a bike. But yeah, just super charming. They had like little mini games as well. There's this one where you do like a sumo match essentially. So that was surprisingly really fun. So yeah, definitely gonna keep an eye on this one. It looks super cute, super fun.
Do we want to do any quick honorable mentions before we promote the content we did all weekend and get out of here?
I'll go quickly. This wasn't a game like that was at PAX necessarily. It was at I think Pixar and Friends, a store in Seattle. It was a game called Unbeatable, and it's basically this rhythm game where you beat up cops, I guess, and do crimes. I guess that's the kind of mantra of the game. But it's like a rhythm game, so the enemies are the notes, and you basically have to hit the triggers at the right time to defeat them. really fun. The art style's amazing. The soundtrack rips. I thought it would be like quite easy with just the 2 tracks that you have to keep an eye on, but then it gets a little bit more complex as you play some of the more difficult games, difficult tracks as you progress. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun with that. I guess one low light I'll mention is Elden Ring on the Switch. I had heard things about this game running portably, so I specifically wanted to try it out, and boy, is it rough.
Those things are there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the FPS consistently looked choppy. It dipped like quite considerably, even when you weren't in the open world, even when you're like just in the kind of early tutorial section, which was quite disappointing. And I noticed a lot of input lag. I'm not good at Souls games necessarily, but like I felt like I was definitely worse because the game wasn't letting me play at my full potential, which is not very good, but still it would have been better than I was performing on the show floor. So yeah, I was very disappointed to hear or see like in front of me that the game wasn't up to snuff. So yeah, I think those are the 2 things I wanted to really talk about. What were you guys?
The Elden Ring thing is most surprising to me because right after I played Elden Ring, I walked like 5 feet over and played Final Fantasy VII Remake on the Switch 2, and it was 30 frames per second, but it was a locked, solid 30 frames per second and ran super well. So I'm going to give that an honorable mention because I've been looking for an excuse to play that first Final Fantasy VII Remake again, and to be able to play it on Switch. If the whole game holds up like that, the graphics still look great, the characters are all there, the action, like, it works quite well on a handheld and was running super smoothly. So I have to give Square Enix, I don't know what sort of magic they're working over there to get it running on the Switch 2, whereas a game like Elden Ring seems to be held together by duct tape and super glue. But I was very impressed by what Final Fantasy VII Remake was doing on the Switch 2.
Yeah, me too. It just ran like a dream. Like that's all I can really say about it. If they can bring this to Rebirth, the sequel game to Remake, I don't know if they'll be able to do that, but it would be nice. It would be really cool to see if they could pull it off.
Yeah, I played Elden Ring for the first time ever at this demo. Don't want to play it again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'll throw out a couple. One that I really liked, that was probably the highlight of the indie mix for me, was this game that we had just got called over by one of the nice devs. It was called Nocturnal 2. It was like a side-scrolling Metrovania, and it's a sequel, so I don't know quite the basis of Nocturnal, the first one, but you go around and have to light fires and burn away, I guess, some of this like dark essence that's in this kind of weird fantasy castle environment. And it was a delight. I believe, Klein, the name that you invoked was Prince of Persia. So that was very fun. And we all got to play that because I think it was like a 10-minute demo. We just played a few minutes each. So really, really liked that one. Definitely keeping an eye out. That was from Sunnyside Games. And then probably another one, I will just say, I guess because it was one of the biggest games there and I played it twice, was Borderlands 4. I think it was just the demo environment, but I wasn't like completely satisfied with it. I think it might have just been the guns that I had or the player type that I chose, but it didn't really gel with me, particularly on Switch. I died a lot. But then when I played on the PC version, I was squatted up with 3 other people, and that was way more fun. So I think this is definitely something that's like, it is just more Borderlands. There are big guns, there are crazy enemies, there's jumping around, there's random abilities with each character. But I think it did sort of say to me, like, this is like a multiplayer game or a co-op game. It's not necessarily something that I'll play by myself.
It's another game that wasn't running super great on Switch 2 either, so that may have been an issue. I found playing Borderlands on the Switch, I was like, oh, like, I feel like I would be doing better if this was running at a solid 60 frames per second, but it was at 30 and then was bumping down quite a bit. But it's more Borderlands, as you said. Like I'm going to be there, I think, just because I am looking for something to fill the Diablo-sized hole in my heart right now. And I think that Borderlands 4 could be that.
Maybe we can squad up.
Let's do it. I've never played a Borderlands game with other people.
Yeah, it is. I think it is more enjoyable. It is a little bit more chaotic. I will shout out that I randomly met the dev team after the panel and got all their autographs, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I won't be playing Borderlands 4, but I hope you guys have fun playing it.
The only other honorable mention I would shout out is Fresh Tracks. It's a game you can play right now. Just came out. An amazing team at Buffalo from Vancouver. We did an interview with them and tried out their demo. It is a skiing action rhythm game, roguelike, that I was like, all of those things, I like all of those things. I love skiing, I love roguelikes, I love rhythm games. How do we make that happen on screen in a cohesive way? And just seeing it in practice, it was like, oh, this makes total sense to me. It's got a lot of amplitude energy into it. You're using moves like a slash and a lean and a jump to the beat of this amazing original music that they invoked the name, and I thought it, and we all went, oh, Tetris Effect. The music, the soundtrack sounds very Tetris Effect. And they're saying like the way that this works, instead of being like a jukebox like Guitar Hero or Rock Band, it is more like a DJ set where from the beginning to the end of a roguelike run, you're essentially crafting like when you beat the game, like a 50-minute album of songs of your choosing that will like kind of seamlessly go into one another. I just thought it was such a meditative experience almost when I was playing it, even though it is very hectic on screen. When you get into the groove of it, it feels like Tetris Effect. It feels like Luminous. It feels like Amplitude, even games like Rock Band, Guitar Hero, where all you see are the tracks in front of you and the threats coming towards you and how you're going to do away with those with this incredible music in your ears. I was super impressed by it. We have the interview up now over on YouTube and socials, so go check that out. But yeah, Fresh Tracks is available right now. You can go play it, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I literally had chills watching Klein play the game. Like the music is like genuinely really, really good. Because they have different genres as you kind of progress through the game, depending on the difficulty. So this is definitely one I think I'm going to pick up. Like it was such a unique spin on a rhythm game that I've not seen played out like in this kind of way.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Like, Klein was the only one out of the three of us who played, but we were all sitting there like, this is amazing. So I'm definitely like, as soon as I get my PlayStation back, like, I think I'm going to download that ASAP. I will say one more thing before we move on, which we can probably all speak to, perhaps a dishonorable mention. Crimson Desert. We kind of had high hopes. It had one of the longest lines all weekend. It was a 50-minute demo, which is an insane amount of time for a demo. And it kind of just it was disappointing, I think, based on what we had seen.
Yeah, this was the game that we've seen over and over again in showcases where every time we've seen it, it's like, what is this game? We're doing Assassin's Creed combat, and now we have magic elemental spells, and now I'm in a hot air balloon above the open world, and also I can pole vault, and there's crafting, and there's cooking, and there's all these like, it just feels like a game that has so many moving parts that they've just kind of slapped onto the side of this thing. And in practice, it felt exactly like that sounds, where there are 400 button combinations to remember, and yeah, there's also like fighting game combos kind of in the combat system, and to just like do something as simple as, hey, I want to swap out the elemental power I'm using. I have to like go into a menu, scroll over, go down, switch it over, all while combat is still happening. It just felt like a lot. It felt like drinking from a fire hose, maybe playing it from like the beginning and having those things slowly introduced to you. You will build up some sort of muscle memory, but just in the demo setting, I was not impressed. The only thing I was impressed by was the fidelity of this world is incredible. The number of people on screen, the action happening is like very cool. That you're lighting things on fire and everything seems to be destructible, and you're throwing people around and getting into these epic boss battles. But the actual gameplay, it felt cumbersome to play.
Yeah, I think like on its own, the combat I think can be fun. I think it almost felt like a warrior, like a Dynasty Warriors kind of game, but you have a little bit more control of what's going on, and the enemies have a little bit more agency. But yeah, because the controls are so kind of cumbersome, and you end up like forgetting a lot of your own abilities. Like I would frequently find myself in combat and like press like an input and then realize, oh, I can do that. I forgot I was able to do that, because they kind of throw you into this tutorial initially where you are trained to do all this stuff, but you're not going to remember all of that going into this thing. Yeah, I just felt like kind of underwhelmed, because not only because the line was super long, like the promise of a 15-minute demo, but also I've seen a lot of people kind of praising this game, so I was like, I had high hopes for it, but came away quite disappointed, especially because I think the biggest thing for me, it didn't feel cohesive both in the gameplay and in the visual style. Because there is so much going on. Gameplay wise, it feels kind of disjointed, and then visually, it's like kind of this hardcore medieval style, but then there's also like fantasy elements of it. There's this like, I guess, voxely kind of powers that your main character has, which some of it wasn't really explained, especially you had this like tether ability that they don't, of all the abilities and controls they tell you about, they don't tell you about that one. So that was kind of left up in the air. But yeah, it just kind of fell flat in a lot of ways. And I was kind of left wondering, like, why is this called Crimson Desert? Like, why are we set in this world that's like lush forest and then it's called Crimson Desert? Super weird. So yeah, not the best, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was kind of the epitome of like trying to do something for everyone. Which is why I sat there. I'm like, this does have things for me. They're just not gelling together. Like, I love the idea of having elemental powers. But yeah, like you say, it was just so cumbersome to use them. And the button combos just weren't gelling. Like, you had this cool thing where if you jumped high enough and pressed, I think square, you turned into like a crow and you get to like fly or glide around. That speaks to me, but I just couldn't ever figure out how to use it. There was a lot of, I think, because of that, there was a bit of lag in terms of like you're doing all these things and they're not really happening on screen. And it was kind of like the world was beautiful, but it was also kind of rubbish at the same time. It was like if you look close enough, it's like I can see where things are clipping, and it was kind of like it's trying so hard, but it's not polished, it's not smooth. Yeah, so I think that was enough to turn me off. I will shout out there was one really cool thing that I liked, where you could basically call down an array of arrows onto enemies, which kind of felt like a Helldiver stratagem. So I really did enjoy that part. But again, it was just one of 1,000 things that you can seemingly do in this game. And particularly, I can see why the demo was 50 minutes, because like at least 15 of those minutes are learning the combinations in the training area, because there's just so much to learn. So I think it probably will scratch the itch for people who like those really in-depth, either like Souls-likes or action RPGs like an Assassin's Creed or something like that. But yeah, it just was trying to do too many things and none of them fully grabbed me.
Yeah, that's basically almost everything we played. We have a lot more coverage from the show over on socials right now. YouTube, we did amazing interviews with the team who's making precision platformer Tethergeist, War of the Western Deep, Fate Reawakened, again, fresh tracks, all sorts of Ravenwood Academy, all sorts of interviews with some devs over on YouTube, as well as our reactions to big name demos like Kirby Air Riders, Pokemon, Silksong, Pragmata on social channels and YouTube as well. As always, please go follow the show. There's no better time to do it than now to enjoy all this great coverage. You can follow the show at Controller Club Pod, Instagram and Blue Sky, at controller_club on Twitter, and at controller.club on TikTok. And if you're listening to the show, you can watch a video version of it right now over on YouTube. While you're there, hit the bell, leave us a comment, thumbs up, subscribe. It really helps out, especially to potentially go do more exciting things like this and maybe get to another PAX or another convention here or abroad. Guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Controller Club. Tom, it's weird having you right here.
Yeah.
Where can people keep up with you, and what do you have going on in your life?
Yeah, you can find me at Tom Draw, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, basically everywhere to see PAX coverage, PAX stuff, what was going on all over there. Yeah, the only thing I'll shout out, other than all the other reviews and social coverage that we've put up, is the interview I did with War of the Western Deep, the dev team behind that game. It was basically like a Monkey Island game, but in the style of like an 80s animated movie, like The Last Unicorn or The Secret of Nim. It's a really charming game and a really nice conversation. So if you're interested in that, check it out on the channel right now.
Lauren, where can people keep up with you, and what do you have to promote?
You can follow me at elrouse19 on the socials. I'm mostly just reposting everything that we've done on the weekend, because that is what has been going on in my life. But like Tom, I did an interview which we'll have up soon with the King's Isle team behind Ravenwood Academy, which is like a visual novel set in a like magical fantasy school, kind of like a Harry Potter vibe. So that, if that sounds interesting to you, we have a lengthy interview coming out about it. But yeah, apart from that, just want to shout out all the people we met at PAX. If you have discovered us through one of the stickers we handed out, hello, welcome. We're happy that you're here.
You can keep up with me everywhere. I'm at the Kleinfelt, TheKleinFelt, doing the same thing as Tom and Lauren are, reposting everything that we're doing. There is so much more to come from our PAX coverage. We did some amazing interviews with attendees about the best things that they've seen, various other questions that may or may not involve my potential future as a professional cosplayer. We'll get into all of that. For now, we will be taking a bit of a programming break over the next week as we get this stuff out. We'll be doing a bonus episode this coming weekend where we'll be putting together all of the interviews that we did from PAX West 2025. So if you haven't got a chance to watch them, there'll be a special episode in your podcast feed featuring just those. That's going to wrap up this episode of Controller Club. As always, thank you so much for listening. Hope if you were at PAX, you had a fantastic PAX. And as always, let's get gaming.